you're not going to be hired on having the most pristine and best portfolio ever, because it's just not going to happen. Like, you've still got so much to learn, but they're going to be hiring you on your potential. So my name's Emily, and I graduated 2 years ago now in 2018.
And what have you been doing since you graduated?
I was quite lucky and managed to get my job pretty much straight away after graduating. So I started in the August of 2018 as a junior designer at McCann, based in their Solihull office, and that is where I am still today, going 2 years strong.
And how did you get that internship?
So the way I got my job was probably quite unique compared to the way other people seem to get their jobs. But McCann ran an initiative at the first Birmingham Design Festival, and you had to sort of do an 120-second pitch, I think it was, in the back of this van to three of the creatives at McCann. And then at the end of it, they gave away a couple of placements and a job. And I was lucky enough to win the job. So that was sort of my into the industry.
Is that where you thought it would take you and how you thought you'd get your first employment?
Definitely not. It was really far away from my plan of action when I graduated. So I thought that I was going to maybe go to London, work in editorial, do something like that. And then this opportunity came up at Birmingham Design Festival, and everyone was just going for it. And it was kind of like, oh, just go for it, because if nothing happens, it's just experience. It gets you used to talking to people in the industry, and then got offered the job. And it was kind of an opportunity that you couldn't really turn it down, to be honest. And it is hard getting your first job. So I think you do have to just sort of grab what you can and see how it plans out.
In your opinion, what do you feel that you learnt from that process and going from being a graduate into your first job?
I think the most important thing I took away from it was that how important networking is and how important it is to talk to people, even if you're talking to people that can't necessarily offer you a job, but they're going to know somebody that potentially could. And you might be a shy person, like I'm not great at talking to people, and it's quite nerve-wracking, but you have to just put yourself out there, because that's the only way that you're going to make yourself known. And everyone's really friendly and everyone's always willing to help, so no one's going to sort of shoot you down or be horrible to you. You've just got to have the confidence to put yourself out there.
That's great. And what do you think employers are looking for from a junior designer straight out of university?
I think that they're probably looking for someone that's sort of willing to just get stuck in and do their best and be willing to help and be willing to learn and put the effort in. Like, you're not going to be hired on having the most pristine and best portfolio ever, because it's just not going to happen. Like, you've still got so much to learn, but they're going to be hiring you on your potential. And I think your personality as well comes into play a lot. I think if you're just just the type of person that's sort of friendly and a team player and will gel well with all the people there, then you can't really go too far wrong. They're not going to expect you to know the ins and outs of Photoshop straight away. Like, I've learned so much in the past 2 years. Like, I couldn't even mask on Photoshop before I started my job. Like, I hadn't got a clue, but they're not going to chuck you in at the deep end. They'll help you, and you have to just have that faith in knowing that you do know what you're doing and they know what you're doing and they're there to help.
So would you say that it's kind of passion and that sort of drive to work hard and be creative that is the kind of key to that initial interview to getting in front of employers?
I think so, yeah. I think having the skills and being a good designer or a good art director or whatever you want to be is really important. But at the same time, if you don't show that passion and that drive and that sort of proactiveness and the willingness to get stuck in, then they're not going to be as interested. Like, I think your personality and your attitude towards the job is equally as important as the skills that you've got behind you and your abilities.
Once you do manage to get in front of an employer, in your opinion, what do you think a good graduate portfolio looks like?
I think you've got to have a range of skills that you can show to them. You don't need it doesn't need to be perfect in everything that you're showing, but if you can show a spectrum of what you can do, then I think that's important and show that you probably show that you can think outside the box or that you've thought about different platforms. Like you could have some print in there or like some social, like just show a spectrum of everything because when you're in the job you have to be able to sort of be diverse and apply the skills that you have to every different platform. So I think just showing a range is really important.
There are lots of students that will kind of watch this and they may say, well, I don't actually know what I want to be. I don't know whether I want to be an editorial designer. I don't know whether I want to be an art director or an art worker. How do you, as a graduate, work out what your place is and where you want to work and what you want to do?
I guess it's all trial and error, really, isn't it? I don't think you have to know what you want to do, and I think there's a lot of pressure that you do need to know exactly what you want to be, where you want to go, where you want to be in 10 years' time. Like, I think it's fine to change direction, try a couple of things out. Like, if you don't know what you want to do, it might be a good idea to have a couple of placements in a few different places as different roles, or even in the same place, be there for 2 weeks and try out a couple of different positions to sort of see where you think your skills fit best. And then even if you talk to them and say, look, I don't really know where I fit, they might then be like, okay, well, we think that you're really strong in this, but so this job might be the best one for you. So I think it's okay to just ask for a bit of help and a bit of direction in that.
So when an employer is looking at the student portfolios, what core skills do you think they're looking for, and what do you think doesn't really matter too much?
I think they'll be looking for a basic knowledge around the Adobe softwares like InDesign, Photoshop, and Illustrator. I think as long as you've got a basic understanding of how they work and what you can do in them, then you'll be okay because you'll be learning constantly while you're in the job, and no one's going to laugh at you if you don't know anything. If anything, they're not going to expect you to know all the tips and tricks that are in there.
What would you say have been the key learnings for you from leaving university to being 2 years into employment?
I think I've learned to back myself a little bit more, um, just to believe in what I'm doing and that I can do what I'm doing, and I wouldn't still be here if I was no good at it, really. I think the most important thing is to have that confidence and to never apologize for what you're doing because if you think it's right, then you sell it in as much as you can. And people will have opinions on things, but at the end of the day, if you're comfortable and confident, then that's all that matters. And I think that you've just got to be a nice person as well. Like people are going to be way more willing to help and on your side if you're being friendly and chatty and putting yourself out there, and people will totally respect that. Like if you need help, they're there to help.
What was your first day in employment like?
Oh my gosh, my first day was so scary. But luckily, I actually started on the same day as two other girls that I went to uni with. So it was actually quite nice to have some friends already there. And I'd already met some of the guys from doing the pitch in the van. So like I knew faces. Um, but the first day it was just a lot of admin really and getting to know the equipment and meeting a couple of people and just settling in. And then I had my first job, but it was a really simple job that I had for the whole week. And it was really nice that you were just eased into it, like you weren't chucked on a pitch straight away. Like it was just a really nice gentle way in, but it was really scary.
And what would you say if there was one thing that you wish you'd known going into industry as a student, what would that be?
I would say just don't be scared. Like don't be afraid of it because it's like if you haven't got a job straight away, like it'll happen. Like it's not going to not happen for you. It just might take a bit of time. And I think people aren't as scary as you think that they're going to be. So just be confident and own the work that you've done and believe that they've hired you because they think that you're good. So you need to believe that as well.
What would you say to some of the students that are worried about getting a job straight away, straight out of university?
I would say literally don't worry about it because it'll happen when it happens, and it's not like it's never going to happen. And you've got so much time ahead of you to land your dream job. Like it doesn't need to happen the week after you've graduated. So don't feel pressured into finding that job straight away. Like take some time for yourself and work on your skills and do what you need to do, but just don't worry because things will always work themselves out and it's okay not to have a job straight away. Like it'll happen.
What's a good way to try and keep that motivation in looking for that job?
I think keeping up your personal projects is a great way to sort of expand on your portfolio, and then you can keep sending them to um, potential employees or people you've networked with, or just putting your projects out there on Twitter. Like Twitter's a really big platform at the minute, I find, for creatives, and it's a bit of a less daunting way to approach somebody than to send an email.
So, contacting senior designers, art directors, creative directors can sometimes be a little bit intimidating, and obviously they're very, very busy individuals. What would you say to the graduates? What piece of advice would you give them in approaching companies and some of these individuals?
I think maybe to not go straight in for the CDs and the seniors, it might, because that is quite daunting and quite intimidating. It might be easier to aim a bit lower down the chain and aim for the juniors or the midweights because, well, firstly, they're the ones that have probably got more time to talk to you than the seniors, and they're going to be the ones that are probably a bit closer to have gone through what you're going through. So it'll be a bit more relatable. Um, but equally, once you've had that introductory conversation with the people lower down the chain, they're the ones that, if they see potential in you, can pass you on to the more seniors in the company. And they'll probably then be more inclined to talk to you because that initial barrier has already been broken. And then they'll think, oh, okay, well, if they see something in them, there's probably talent and potential there.
So, if there was one piece of advice you could give the students upon graduating and going into industry, what would it be?
I would just say, get yourself out there, be confident, and believe in the work that you've done.